Greetings, YouTube. Happy Sunday. I just got home from church, which means it's time to review and grade today's special Marvel Contest of Champions deal/bundle. Now, here's the deal. We have a unit deal to talk about today that is a pretty familiar looking deal. Now, it's 1,800 units. We're going to say that's anywhere between $60 to $70 worth of units. This is also something that really only applies to people who have the units. So we're talking about free-to-play players or people like myself who bought last week's unit bundles that had the bonus 6-star shards and Grandmaster Avenger featured crystals. And if you haven't used those and you have hoarded them so unhealthily in your unit inbox, then this would apply to you because you've already spent the money on them. Let me say this off the top because there are people who get triggered anytime there's a unit deal and it comes to reviewing. If you do not have the units and you have to spend actual cash to get this, it's a whole lot different of a grade than if you already spent the actual cash or if you don't spend anything in this game and you just hoard units in general. So 1,800 units, or about $70, we'll call it, worth of units, gets you 9,000 Tier 5 basic Callus fragments, 1 fully formed Tier 2 alpha, and 200,000 gold. Now I will say this. For T2 alphas, this is slightly worse than the average deal, and for Tier 5 basic Callus fragments, this is slightly better. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, the average deal, the ones that I have seen that I keep track of in my database when I review deals every day, that they come up at least, is the standard going rate of $50, this is usually cash, for 4,500 Tier 5 basic Callus fragments, or $100 for 9,000. So this is $70 worth of units for what they have charged before $100 for cash. So that is a better deal, especially when you consider that free-to-play players can get this with their units through battle chip openings. However, the Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst should be about 1.5 to make it even average of what we've seen, and it's only 1. So clearly, this is going to get, in the first level, about a C grade. It's an average deal. It's a slightly above average, like a C plus to B minus for Tier 5 basic Callus fragments, but it's a C minus to D plus in terms of both Tier 2 Alpha Catalyst and gold. The gold, we should expect to see at least 500,000 gold for this asking price, and it is not even half that. But this is the best part of the deal. And you might be thinking, a C, how is that the best part? Well, there are actually 2 different tiers to this deal that are worth talking about. The second tier is going from the Advanced Callus Cash to the Ultimate Callus Cash. This thing is one of the worst marketed, dumbest secondary tiers in the history of economics discussions in Marvel Contest of Champions. I have no idea who wrote this deal, but they should be fired immediately. It's probably the same person that decided that they would just try to slyly reveal in a forum post that they quickly closed that the Thanos final boss needed a patch because he was much harder than supposedly designed at first. So here's the deal with this, right? Same company that's asking you to spend 3,000 units on a freaking profile pic, you don't increase a single Tier 5 basic Callus fragment for the second deal, but the purchase price is 1,200 more units than the initial tier. That literally makes no sense. That is something that seems to have been made on the hardest of drugs, or since it's Canada, maybe the hardest of maple syrups. This thing, minimum, should be 12 to 15,000 Tier 5 basic Callus fragments. It is essentially asking you to spend an additional $100 worth of units, and you don't gain a single Tier 5 basic Callus fragment for the same amount that you spent 1,800 units on. Like, literally the worst offer ratio I've ever seen for Tier 5 basic Callus fragments for a secondary tier deal. Now, the only reason why you're getting anything different besides gold, which is, 300,000 more gold in this, is that you get half of a Tier 2 Alpha or 18,000 Tier 2 Alpha Callus fragments for the additional 1,200 units difference between the second and the first. But really, this second deal should either be 1,800 units or less, aka the first tier, or it should be about double what they're offering for it to be considered even a slightly above average deal. But because it's not, it's a straight F. Whoever invented this really did fail at any kind of logical reason to have you tempted to purchase this. This second tier is kind of what we expected in the past would produce those tier 5 class catalyst fragment crystals that are about 2% of a tier 5 class catalyst that they've now been throwing out. And I'm sure we're probably going to see them, if nothing else, on July 1st, or July 4th, excuse me, not July 1st. But in general, the first tier is like a C. It's a C plus for tier 5 basics. It's a C minus to D plus for tier 2 alphas, given the comparison of other deals. And the second tier is just a flat out F. I don't understand at all why they thought that a 3,000 unit, essentially an Odin worth of units, $100, already added to a $70, so $170 total, and you literally get the exact same amount of tier 5 basics that you do in the first tier, and only half of a tier 2 alpha more with 300,000 more gold for an asking price that's just outrageous. It's sort of like somebody saying, hey, I know you just said you'd pay $8 for that beer at a ball game. Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't I give you 1.5 beers for $22, huh? And you're just looking at them like, no, I would never do that. And yet, that's the kind of logic that they're thinking will sell you on especially the second tier of today's offer. So if you need tier 5 basics, it's a C to C plus, and this is assuming that this is the people like myself who, when you look at the top right of my screen, have about 6,000 units, most of which will go out. No matter what, I will have 6,000 units for Thursday for the first ever sponsored crystal opening of Ronin. But in the meantime, I will most likely get that first tier of the deal, but I will stay far, far, far away from the second tier, which was clearly invented for the same person that thought that you would easily be motivated to spend 3,000 units on a stupid profile pic. Happy Sunday. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.